G'day guys, back with the Circle, and today let's talk about this Necromunda release that's just gone on, because it's some interesting stuff. So, what have we got here? We've got dice, we've got the Dark Uprising box, the Book of Ruin, Zone Mortalis 4 tile set, bases. We already had bases, but I guess this is an actual set full of all the bases. The Hobbit Dwarves Profile Card Pack. Ugh. Necromunda Keyring? Geez, they're getting really keen for the non-necessary stuff, monetizing weird shit like cups and things like that. But you know, all the power to them. That doesn't really affect us. What does affect us are these bundles. So, first things first, did a bit of quick math. Pretty much buying in a bundle is full price buying. There's pretty much no discounts to be had here. If you bought, say, the Zone Mortalis collection down here, and then you added in the dice and the Book of Ruin separately, it would end up being exact same cost anyway. So these aren't bargain bundles or anything like that. It's just like a one-click option. It's happened before. We're not talking any crazy revelations here. These tiles, they look like the old Forge World tiles that just went out of production. So, I mean, it's a good thing that they're just the tile themselves, of course, instead of having the walls pre-put onto them, which means you can do a bit more variation with the walls themselves, which is nice. As it stands, though, $110 for these is pretty high on the pricey end of things, because, as some of you would know, I work in a plastic injection molding factory now. Used to work in the steel industry, and back in April I made the swap over when I got married to jump into the plastic industry. I dealt with plastic when I was 16, 17 years old in laser cutting, that kind of thing, and some other plastic jobs along the way, lots of fiberglassing. Well, now I make dies. Every day, working on dies, putting them in machines, testing them out, running the machines, all that kind of thing. And obviously I know what goes into it. This is super simple stuff right here. You're talking a die that could be done with just a CNC milling machine, probably an aluminium die at that, not an expensive titanium or steel die. If you did go for titanium or steel, you would get a very long life out of it, because basically the only side that needs a lot of detail is the front side. There is no complex shapes here that have to be formed. It's entirely two-dimensional. The molds that are being used are like a giant version of a press mold. So if anyone's ever used green stuff, press it onto like a marine shoulder pad or something to get an imprint of it, and then filled that up to cast something, it's the exact same process, really. This is really simple to cast. You're talking, I don't know, maybe $1 worth of plastic material for a tile, if that. Plastic's cheap, guys. Plastic is super cheap, trust me. So, yeah, this shouldn't be 110, but that is no shock to anyone. That's not why you came here. Alright, let's look at the bundle itself. So, Curiosity TV made an interesting video the other day where he talks about how he was worried that this sort of pricing point is way too much for the casual person to look at and go, oh, you know what, I want to get into Necromunda, that sort of thing. Now, I do and don't agree with that at the same time. I mean, I do agree it's too much, but I think the reasoning is a little bit wrong. I don't think this necessarily is for people who are new to the hobby to get into it with. This is not a traditional, easy to build, let's try it out, hey, you know, it's $50 each, split between myself and a mate, this is easy, this is cheap. It's not like that at all. What you have here is something that's definitely aimed at the more experienced hobbyist. Now, that doesn't mean that the quality of the kits, or the miniatures, or that sort of thing is also aimed at those hobbyists. Instead, what you have here is something that's trying to be a bit of everything. It's trying to have relatively easy to build kits, pretty much snap fit miniatures. I believe if we look at the sprues, wherever they are. Right, you're talking your regular sort of cultist type sprues, and your terrain is, well, it's basically blocks. Blocks that you assemble together like any sort of Lego, any other Games Workshop building. Assemble the four sides of the wall and put a little roof cap on top. Ta-da, there's a wall piece. Like, nothing crazy going on there. All regular stuff, regular templates, tokens, so nothing crazy going on in that regard. All your little tokens and stuff are the paper pop-out ones, which we're so used to now, or cardboard pop-out ones. Same with the Zone Mortalis tile itself that you play your games on. So, nothing here really screams advanced hobbyist. Nothing really screams someone new to the hobby either. In fact, I would dare say that the price point in multi-part kits is aimed away from the newer people. But of course, it's not offering enough for the really mature hobbyists to really grasp and go full out with, I don't think. So, what am I getting at here? Well, if you want to aim and sell a box game or a system to hobbyists like myself, people who've been in it for a really long time, really passionate, we're older, have more money to burn because we've got established jobs, homes, that sort of thing, this isn't the way to do it. The way to do it for me was something like Betrayal at Kelt and Burning at Prospero, because they gave you a lot of value for money. Most of what was in the box was miniatures you wanted to use. Now, this is important. So, in the context of those boxes, all the miniatures in the box were Space Marines. That meant it didn't matter what Legion you played, all of the miniatures in that box could be used by you. This, on the other hand, has two different factions in it. So unless you want to play both, or you're going to split this with a mate, then you're not going to get a full usage out of what's provided. Also, yes, Betrayal at Kelt and Burning Prospero also came with their own game modes. They came with a couple of tiles to lay out some terrain and some tokens and stuff, but nowhere near the level of this game, the amount of tokens and such that comes with this, nor the terrain. Now, the problem with that is you can't really split the terrain amongst people. I don't think people are going to be going out of their way to get all the tokens from it either. So there are a bunch of extra shit in the box that people either want all of it or none of it. And that makes it very hard to split this with a friend. I could potentially see a friend coming in maybe going, alright, I'll give you $70 for one half of the infantry miniatures out of this box. Something like that. But you're still going to be footing the rest of the $490 bill on your own, and that's rough. Now, I think the lesson Games Workshop took away from Burning at Prospero and Betrayal at Kelt was they sold really, really well for what was provided in the boxes. 30 Space Marines, 5 Terminators, couple characters, Dreadnought or whatever, or Custodes, Sisters of Science, whatever was in each box set, sold really well, and for players it was a good bargain. So they probably went, wonder if we can get away with it with this one. Will this sell really, really well? Because we're providing a lot of stuff in the box that people will want. They will want Zone Mortalis terrain and walls that we've just taken away from the Forge World store. So I guess they're hoping to capture people who not necessarily are coming in for the miniatures provided in the box, but are coming in wanting the terrain from the box. But in which case, if people are coming in wanting the terrain from this box, well, I think they'd just want the terrain from this box if they want to have, say, a ZM table at home. Now, if they want to have a 4x4 Zone Mortalis table at home, they're going to need a lot more terrain than this box provides, because this is basically a 2 foot by 2 foot section, so they're going to need 4 sets of this box to make a ZM table for at home. That is nearly 2,000 Australian dollars. So to put that into perspective, you're talking, my mortgage on a 3-bedroom house, 800 square metres, is $1,600 a month, and that's paying off both the principal and the interest. So for those who don't own a house, it means paying off the loan and all the interest as well that's accruing on the loan at the same time. That's a lot of money, $1,600 a month. But we can afford it because my wife's a school teacher and I'm an engineer, and together we make decent money. Funny that. So I could probably afford this, that's true, but I would not want to buy this because then I'm going to be left with 4 sets of Chaos Gangs, 4 sets of Enforcers, all these different cards and tokens and things I don't want. So what is the niche that this is appealing to? Alright, let's pretend it's Necromunda players. So Necromunda players went out and they bought their Necromunda box sets with their Escher and their Goliath and things like that, and they've already got their terrain set up, or they might even, like one of my friends, already own Zone Mortalis tables and City Fight terrain and things like that. They're now looking at this and going, do I want to collect these gangs? For some, yes, but unfortunately Enforcers, to my knowledge, were released a while back. In fact, I can even double check that. Enforcers were already released a little bit back, so the drive for people to buy those Enforcers maybe isn't there. Whereas, yes, they were released. Slightly different kit, possibly, to what's released in this box, I'm not sure. So the only drive really is for people who want to collect Chaos Cultists, and frankly, I don't think people are going to be going out of their way. I mean, this is a nice looking game, don't get me wrong. This will be on eBay, sold by the dozens very shortly, I dare say, because obviously people buying this box set are going to be like, no thanks, I don't want all the stuff in it, I only want the terrain, whatever, as I was talking about earlier. So, again, not really sure what the niche is, and if you want to appeal to, say, your experienced Necromunda player, that kind of thing, well, I'm sorry, but the problem with specialist games is this drip feed that goes on with them. What the community wants is, for when their game comes out, whether it's Blood Bowl, Necromunda, whatever, they want it all to come out at once. Or, if there's a release cycle, they want huge releases, like 4 games in a cycle every 6 months, something like that, because they want the system to be filled out, fleshed out, fully integrated, whatever you will, all at once. People hate being fucked around for years waiting for something. Just ask people playing the Horus Heresy. Same thing goes for other specialist games. You play Blood Bowl, for example. There are plenty of teams that either don't have miniatures, don't have star players, or they've only just got full teams. This is a common thread I see in the comment section. Someone was talking about the Goblins just the other day, for example, having this problem in Blood Bowl, but they've only just got a full team lineup. So, same thing goes here. You're targeting a product at the system, but people are going, hey, this is nice, but I'm missing this gang, this gang, this gang. Why are you bringing out this terrain, and why are you bringing it out in this way? Now, for Games Workshop, I guarantee they're going to bring out this terrain in its own separate box. The question is how long between bringing it out and bringing out the box separately, and what the price difference is on the terrain will be the questions. So, by releasing this first, the people who want the terrain, which is the big ticket item here, or want the gang, perhaps, they're hoping to try and snare that person now by saying to them, oh, you know, who knows when it could get released separately, why don't you just buy this big expensive box? And people will go do it, and that's fine, but it is important to recognise you're being manipulated if you do this. Notice it with other releases, and I harped on about it before. There was a release for 40k, the name of it escapes me off the top of my head, I do apologise, but it was a Necron and Mechanicum box game that was released for 40k, and it had one new Necron miniature, and it came with the Armiger Warglaives in the Imperial side of the box. And I got shitty at that because I said they're doing that to sell the box. The Armigers could be released separately at any time, but they released them specifically in that box, and then people, of course, in the comments got up me going, who are you to complain? Yeah, they'll get released separately down the line, so who cares if they're not now? Well, it's not good for us. It may be good for the company, but it's really not good for us, the people who are trying to collect the game. As I said, we want everything at once for a game system. Now, we don't mind waiting for said game system to come out, such as, say, Adeptus Titanicus. But if the game system drops, and you don't have rules for your preferred faction within the game system, what happens then? Are people going to go out and buy it? Well, my experience in Horus Heresy, especially looking at, say, Dark Angel's Legion was a great example, or Blood Angel. For years, these legions were pretty thin on the ground despite their popularity because there was no rules for them. Or no miniatures for them. Now, this is extremely problematic. And so by releasing a boxed set like this, it's not improving the game system as a whole. Because it may have additional rules, it may have some handy little bits in it, but unfortunately it's not helping the majority of people, in my opinion. I mean, Necromunda players might turn around and tell me this box is great value for money. I just personally don't see it. What needs to be done is definitely bringing out something like this at a lower price point. If the gangs and the cards and things like that are what's important, then you could release those minus this expensive terrain and have yourself another starter type box. If the terrain itself is pivotal, then you can do a box like this, but perhaps get rid of a bunch of the tokens and paper templates and things like that. You've got to find a way of bringing the cost down, because 490 Australian dollars, that's a lot of money. You're talking about 400 something US dollars off the top of my head. I think about 800 Australians, 500 something US currently, 550 US, something like that. So yeah, basically 400 something US dollars right now. 280 pounds, give or take, for this box is really rough. I don't see many people who have the sort of disposable income available that they can go out and purchase this sort of thing today. Obviously, okay, caveat to this, there are going to be people who can and do. I could afford this box. I, however, would not. If I was going to purchase something from Games Workshop, I prefer to either do it at a store I like, maybe to support them, from the local gaming store, that kind of thing, or I'm going to contact friends who can get it from the UK, so I pay the fair price. Now, this is not the fair price, sorry to say. This is a lot of money. I mean, 490 Australian dollars, that's enough to buy 8 or 9 cartons of beer, slabs of beer we call it in Australia. So you're talking 24 beers, 375ml cans. That's, you know, that's a good probably 8 to 10 weekends worth of drinking, if you're that way inclined as a party animal. You could buy probably 4 nice, very nice bottles of scotch. You know, something like a Glenmorangie Quinta Reuben, my personal favourite. I could buy a bunch of Cuban cigars. I bring these up because these are all luxury items, right? $490. Well, people like to say golf's an expensive sport. I could definitely buy a set of clubs for less than $490, and I'd be fully kitted out for golf. Buy the clubs, buy some balls, and buy a single glove. And I'd still be better off to play that sport. What about firearms? Yeah, you could definitely buy a firearm for cheaper than $490, especially if you go second hand. If you're going for something like a small caliber, like a little bolt action 22 or something, you could probably get away with like $300. Second hand, short magazine Lee Enfield, yeah, you get them for about 400 odd bucks. So those are all different luxury items I could buy for this sort of price. Now, do you think more engineering or more cost is going into this box than a set of golf clubs and their cart and your glove? Do you think more engineering has gone into this box than a short magazine Lee Enfield 303 caliber rifle? Do you think more engineering has gone into this box, more money has been spent on it by the company, than for you to buy 4 or 5 bottles of outrageously expensive scotch that the Australian government puts a 30% excise on because they love tax money? Don't know. I don't know what people value over what, but this gives you some idea of what you could buy. I mean, $490, that could buy you your first car in some places. That is, probably about 10 very expensive steak dinners? It's another thing you could buy with it, this luxury item. So, I bring it up because, look, I don't see the value in it. Obviously, the people who are watching this probably don't see the value in it either, that's why you're here. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. I just thought it'd be interesting to bring up at the start, like, these sort of sculpts, incredibly, incredibly simple to make. I could make this sort of stuff at my own factory. Problem is our machines are always running, doing other things. Can't really put my own shit in there, can I? So, that's a bit of a downside of where I work, I guess. But these are really super easy to cast. These aren't, when a regular miniature is molded, for example, it's got to have a lot of mating surfaces. It's got some very intricate, complicated shapes. Look at some of the Primaris Marines, for example. They're almost cut through the center of the body in a curvy sort of S-form pattern, that sort of thing. And these two halves have to mate up together perfectly. This, on the other hand, is flat surfaces at all the edges. The detail on the surface is basically just a stippled surface with a couple of bolt holes in it, and that's it. These are really simple shapes, so it does not require complex engineering. The molds do not cost a fortune for this sort of thing, but believe me, in a CNC machine to make a mold to make, say, one of the ZM tiles or one of these sprues, it would be done within the day, machining wise. And you're paying your operator to run that CNC machine and look after it, probably around the $24 an hour mark. He's going to be running it for probably 7 hours or so that day. So, off the top of my head, you're probably looking at maybe $200 in labour costs all day to run this machine. Plus the material, well, aluminium, you could get away with it. Maybe they went for something more expensive like steel or titanium, but even then, those materials are still not that expensive. If your mold cost you $10,000 to make, that includes your labour, materials, all that sort of thing, get into commission, then if you only charge $1 a sprue, that mold will pay itself off in 10,000 casts. If you charge $10 a sprue, well now, that's only 1,000 casts. And of course this is how you make your money back. Because what happens once you pass that 1,000 casts at $10 a sprue? Well, you're making money. You're making money hand over fist, because that's an extra $10 in your pocket. That's the super secret squirrel science on molds. Now obviously molds are life, but something like this is not going to wear out a mold quickly. Trust me, I've got some molds at the factory that have cast 50, 60,000 items and are still going strong. Because they're simple shapes like this. Now, we know that when they do a limited run, Games Workshop, quote-unquote limited run, the standard box produced is 10,000 quantities. So if your mold costs $10,000 and you charge $1 a mold, the entire run will be paid off at $1 apart. Wow, isn't that interesting then? Just something to think about. Anyway, I'm Mac with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching. Hope you found this informative, and see you all next time.